All right, we are live. So as anybody kind of starts to trickle in here, we'll say what's up. Anyone watching the replay, what's up?
Noise.
Thank you for being here. This is the first official meeting of the Red Company. We've been talking about it. It feels like forever now. But we're here. We made it. We did it.
It does.
And
been
man,
2 months.
It's been Yeah, has it been that long?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Insane.
Crazy.
It's come to fruition.
So
It has.
It really has.
And as I'm sure you can see from the thumbnail and the title and all that, we are here to talk about We Are the Dead by Mike Shackle. I should have grabbed the book and had it here on my desk with me, but I did not. So
I'm talking about my sparkling water.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so I'm going to do my best to channel my inner Philip Chase to kind of wrangle this discussion and have it be somewhat organized.
Totally.
Good luck.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. So,
yeah.
I guess let's start with some non-spoiler stuff, just in case, right? And then we can get into spoilers after that.
All right.
But I think why don't we just kind of go around and just give like a quick non-spoiler reaction, like what did we think of the book as a whole, kind of in general, and then we can dig into some specific stuff. So would anybody in particular like to go first?
I'll go ahead.
All right, go for it, man.
Go.
Hey, man. I love the book. Honestly, I did not expect anything of it. It took me a minute to care for the cover, and when I kind of liked the cover, and then I started the book, I was like, okay, it felt a little slow at the start, and then after about 10 pages, slow.
I was going to say, you said it felt slow at the start?
Yeah. For 10 pages, okay? Because I have a hard time starting things. It's a problem. But with about 10 pages in, I was hooked. And I just could not stop reading. The only problem I had was that even though the chapters were really short and it made it so much easier to go one more chapter, which I don't typically do, I think sometimes the fact that Shackle would constantly change the POV was kind of what's the word? Disorienting, because we would go from a very high action, tense scene, and then sometimes we'd kind of shift into a less tense scene. So I kind of wish she was willing to take a couple chapters where it was back to back to back with the same POV, but that's just personal, right?
Fair. Mr. Triple B, how about you?
Oh man, yeah, I loved it. I felt like it just kicked off so quick. I don't know. I didn't feel like it was slow at first, but I don't know. I guess I never minded the POVs jumping around. I guess I feel like every time I read a book with a lot of POVs, there's always one POV where I'm like, But like on this, I loved all of them. So I never felt like, oh shoot, I want to be back with those other ones. It was like, oh yeah, let's see what they're doing now. Or oh yeah, that's right, I forgot it left off here. So I don't know, it worked for me, but I get that. It did jump around a lot, because in other books that have that, they do stick with one for a while. Sometimes you get, or longer chapters. They are quick chapters. But yeah, I just thought it was so good. I loved, we'll talk about it a lot later, but I loved a lot of the parallels to things that happened in real life. Like it really was like right away early on, you just get that vibe of like watching, World War II Nazi era stuff, like Schindler's List or something, just that feeling, but in the fantasy world. And the characters were just so well done, very, very gray. And you just, I don't know, I just loved them all. It was just so good. And there's so many twists and turns, and so many explosions. But yeah, I thought it was great. I loved it. And I'm really excited for book 2 and 3.
The thing is, as soon as I finished it, I knew, Chris, you're going to love it. I just knew. Yeah. You know what? I'm so happy Chris is here, because he's going to love this stuff so much.
Yeah. For non-spoiler, just to give a kind of like a bordering, overarching view of it takes place over 8 days, right?
Yeah.
And we have probably like 4 or 5 4 or 5 main POVs.
Mhm.
Usually in Grimdark, there's no clear lines between good and evil, but I feel like, I don't know. I felt like, I don't know how you guys felt about this. I felt like we knew who was good and who was evil, technically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think, with the exception of Dren, who's one of the characters, initially meeting him, without giving any spoilers, it feels like most of them are making decisions for the right reasons. You know what I mean? You get one primary evil POV in terms of like people who are interested in reading this book, and I felt like it was a really cool POV to get if you love magic systems, because it added so much to the story and the narrative, having that perspective. And I don't know if I agree, Alex, on the POV swapping. I feel like, again, and I don't know. I mean, of course that's personal preference, but like you said, Chris, it feels like there was never a lull of like, oh, I missed this character, because we just really didn't have that opportunity. And even though there were slower moments, it kind of felt like, with the amount of explosions that were in this book, it kind of felt like, oh, maybe I need, maybe I need a second to breathe. Maybe I need a second of reprieve. But overall, man, I was shocked about how much I love this. I know that he was heavily inspired by Abercrombie, and I think you see that, but you see like an original spin on it. That it doesn't feel like Abercrombie ever, if that makes, I don't know, that might be an incorrect opinion. But it feels like someone who loves Abercrombie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd agree.
I agree.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, I would. I would just kind of echo a lot of things that you guys said. I'll try to come up with something that's a little bit that hasn't been hit already. But I think that the feeling that I got was, it almost felt like there could be a prequel book, right? That like he could come out with a prequel and it'd be cool, but we jumped really straight into like this huge like climactic moment almost, and then we sort of have like the fallout of that, and then we have this story. It was an interesting kind of structure, I thought, and it was, like you guys said, very fast paced, short chapters. All the POVs were interesting. I really, I'm the older I get, the more I read all that kind of stuff, the more I'm like really appreciating how themes are done in books, and the more I'm like really seeking that out. And there were some really interesting ones in here that I think would be fun to talk about. So I thought some of the, sometimes like with grimdark stuff, it can be easy to expect just like, gritty, gory, whatever, violent kind of dark story. And you don't, there's not always deep themes in there, or maybe you don't seek them out. You're just looking for other things or whatever, at least for me in the past. But for this, I think they shone through really well, and I think it kind of goes hand in hand with what you guys were saying about the really fast-paced stuff and then some of the slower stuff. Like it kind of, it's like the humor in Abercrombie stuff, right? Where the humor makes the dark stuff feel darker, that it kind of had that push and pull that I really appreciated. So it was awesome. I'm with you guys. It was great. It was a lot of fun. Can't wait for the second one.
Yeah, I honestly can't wait either.
So
it's gonna be fun.
Do you all think it's classified as grimdark? I'm just curious.
I think the beginning is what really, I think, like, and I don't think this is a spoiler. I think it's been said in other non-spoiler reviews. Like the good guys lose, right? And I think that's really what makes it.
It's like the start of the story.
Yeah, exactly. It's the very beginning. Like I think I went into this knowing that was happening, and I didn't know. I thought maybe they had already, and then whatever. I thought it was done really well. I think that those parts are grimdark. I think you have one really gray character, one, and then mostly I think it was like 3. I would classify them as good, with not knowing anything about like the politics and the Shulka or anything like that,
right?
With the exception of Dred's perspective of them, and then you have one evil perspective. So I don't know. I think maybe that balance is what kind of makes it grimdark. but that would be my assessment. But yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, there's probably a little more hope, I guess, than you find in like Joe Abercrombie stuff. Like there's humor and stuff like that, but the world's pretty twisted, and everybody kind of does some crazy stuff. So I guess maybe, but I still would consider it grimdark just because of everything going on, and because the characters, whether they're good or bad, they have to do bad things sometimes out of necessity. And I think that gray characters who do bad things for, you know, good reasons or for certain reasons, that kind of makes it fall in grimdark, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would agree with, because grimdark is a spectrum also, right? And like you know, there are aspects of it that are like Chris, like you said, like there's definitely hope in there that's refreshing, and you know, and makes the rest of it seem a little bit darker. There's stuff in there that's darker than anything Abercrombie did.
Oh yeah,
like
I agree.
You know, so I think he really I really appreciate that whole spectrum and how it kind of felt like if this was the real world, this is what happened.
Right.
This is probably what would go down, right? Like there would be a lot, you know, like we should say on the front end too, there's trigger warnings for all kinds of stuff in here, right? So the sorts of things that you might expect to happen in a rebellion story after you've been conquered by these evil people, right? So there's a lot from the oppressors. There's a lot of violence of various natures, shall we say. Not great stuff, but you do also have that hope in there, and you have, you know, chance, like you said, like some people who do genuinely just seem like good people, even if they're forced into some not great decisions now and then.
That might be the contrast, and I don't want to. We're probably going to bring up Abercrombie a lot, but I mean that's just the influence of the story. But I think the contrast between the two is you have these characters in First Law who I think are relatively deplorable. You know, like they've done like we pick up where they've already done all the bad stuff that they've done for the most part, or have bad stuff has happened to them, and therefore they are the way that they are. Right. And here, I think we have a young enough primary character, and actually a few of the other characters, and one who's set in his ways and good, where now you're seeing all of these things happen to them, you know?
That's interesting.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what, to me, I guess now that we're articulating it, that's what to me made it feel like the love of Abercrombie was there, but it wasn't, it was more of an homage than it was anything, you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
I think that's a really great way of putting it.
Yeah. Well done.
Go ahead.
I just said well done.
Oh, yeah. Very much so. What do you guys think of like the, we've made some comparisons to Abercrombie already, but like the general like tone, style of the book? How did, I found it was a very, very fast, easy read. There wasn't, it's not To Ride Hell's Chasm, right? It's, you don't have to be like looking up words every other page and all this stuff. What's up, Andrew?
Andrew, what's up?
It is indeed a great book. So I thought it was a really easy read, despite how horrible parts of it, were the events and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And
whoa,
it's a hot take.
Dropping the dimes over here.
That's a hot take.
Wow. So it's funny he says that. I
comparing book one to book one, but
yeah, exactly.
We're comparing book one to book one. Then
that's a fair.
Wait, are we comparing A Little Hatred? Is it We Are the Dead to A Little Hatred?
The Blade itself.
Or is it
Blade itself? It'd be
okay. If it's We Are the Dead to the Blade itself, then I like We Are the Dead more.
Yeah. I actually agree.
I'm on the fence on that one still.
If
I need to read more.
Hatred, I don't know.
Once we finish the trilogy.
I loved all of Abercrombie's characters more after reading Blade itself than We Are the Dead. So it's like, but Abercrombie is just like so in a class of his own in that regard. But I think all of the other things that, you know, in the narrative, the plot, all of that, and the original feel of the occupation. Like, forget the epic journey. You know, they're two very different books if you really think about it. So I guess if you had to compare them, I would take Shackle's first book over Abercrombie's, but you know, I have to see how Fool's Hope and Until the Last goes.
Right.
But it's going to be really hard to overcome. What was it? Last Argument of Kings for me. That's like a top fiver.
Yeah, Last Argument of Kings was amazing, Andrew.
It was.
Andrew's not liking it.
It was the best book of that trilogy, and I die on that hill.
And I can't wait to read Age of Madness. All right, so sorry.
Yeah, so good.
I know we're going
off the rails.
It's gonna come up in a Shackle discussion, you know.
Yeah.
It will.
Oh, yeah,
it
for
will.
sure.
For sure. I thought there was some other cool influences. Like there was clearly like some Japanese influence in here that as an anime fan, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know, all the Shulka themselves, or even just the mask on the front cover, right?
Yeah.
There's definitely like some samurai stuff going on. Even the naming that was used in some of the places was very much seemed inspired by that kind of thing. So I thought that was cool.
I actually think it was really interesting how whoever brought up World War II earlier, the fact that they say we are the dead, and the Japanese in World War II were willing to you can kill every last one of us rather than take over our nation.
Interesting. I didn't think about that.
Fine, but you can't take over. And I thought that was so interesting. It's I can see the parallel.
Yeah. I actually didn't think about any of that either until you brought that up, Chris, and I was like, oh, you're actually spot on. There's a lot there with that. Yeah.
The World War II occupation was I'm also slowly reading Tattooist of Auschwitz, and it's
nice.
And you're kind of like, you know, you're in a camp, in a concentration camp, and it's you kind of get, well, you don't get that energy so much, but you get the vibe, like the evil are the ones in charge, you know.
Right. I'm trying to think. I'm thinking of Night at the moment because I read Night about a year ago, and it's about. Have you read Night? Have any of you read Night?
No.
Night by Elie Wiesel. It's the memoir of a guy who was in one of the internment camps. I think was Auschwitz, but I could be completely wrong about that. And his journey and his relationship with his father as he goes through there, and just the horrible things that happened to them, and how his relationship evolved, or rather devolved.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. It's like those thoughts coming up, you know, as we read this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I have one more thought that might be kind of tricky to do non-spoiler, but I think it might kind of dovetail nicely into some of the spoilery stuff. Is some of the themes that were in here, like one that I'll throw out one, and we can kind of kick it around and whatever. But I think one of the immediate things that pops up to me is the idea that like the person who you feel you are in the story you tell yourself isn't necessarily the same as how other people view you.
Oh yeah,
and doesn't necessarily align with your actions, and just those different perspectives can really be very different, right? And I thought that was a little on the nose at times with one of the characters, but overall, I think it was still pretty well done. Outside of a tiny nitpick, I suppose, but yeah, I thought that was really cool. What did you guys think of that? Is there any other big things you guys picked out that you liked, etc.?
Honestly, I couldn't pick out when I was reading this book. It's really hard for me to find themes in the middle of a book, but when I finished it, I don't think I could find. Maybe I did find some, and it's just because I read it a month, maybe 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
But
you read it a little bit earlier than I did, for sure.
Yeah, it was maybe early November, but I can't pick up on any themes, and I want you to elaborate on that whenever we get into spoilers.
Yeah,
because I can't think of anything in particular where it would be on the nose.
I think it was in the Convergence. I think you get a lot of that towards the end, where you see through the eyes, you see a character through the eyes of another character who we've been following, and you see it also in a multitude of ways. I think it happens with no, I think it's mostly one character, right?
I think two, maybe like 60-40, right? A little bit more leaning into one.
Yeah,
that's how I took it anyway.
Okay, yeah.
I see it now. I'm trying to think about it, and I think I see it.
Yeah.
All right, is it a good time to go spoiler? What do you think?
I mean, we can, and I guess we can do. That might be easier to get into some of the themes anyway. So I guess to expand on that, Alex, what to me, we have Tinstra, one of the main characters, right, who is just constantly reminding us that she is a coward. Constantly, and I'm like, okay, we probably need fewer of these reminders, right?
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it's okay, and we see, she's sort of accidentally or forced into or begrudgingly, whatever, does these things that other characters are like, wow, you're so brave and amazing. And they really look up to her, and you see what's the little girl's name?
Something with the Z.
It's like Zorik or something like that.
No, Zorik, I think that's it.
That she is so just attached. Yeah, like just so attached to Tinstra, and just like, I need you, and that support. And I thought, so like everyone views her as not the coward, and I think her being with this child, like she had to kind of learn to overcome some of that herself. I thought that was kind of cool. And then the flip side, you see Drem, who's just like, I'm such a badass, I'm so cool, I'm a hero, but he's actually a coward the whole time.
Right. Yeah.
So we get the duality of those two. I thought was so cool.
Yeah, that's very true.
Very end.
That is really good.
Yeah. Okay, real quick before we go into anything else, something that's not super spoiler that we can all say. Who was your favorite POV, favorite character?
Tinstra.
Who's that?
Tinstra.
That's a tough one, Chris. That's
I know.
Tough one.
It's tough. Or top two, if that's
you
easier.
go. You go first.
Me? Oh man, I would say Tinstra and Drin were my two favorite. I did like Jax too, but I mean I liked them all.
Yeah,
they were all good. Drem was really fun. Maybe number two might be. I pronounced it Darius. I don't know how you guys pronounce it.
But Darius. Yeah.
Our evil POV that we got. I always love the villain.
And how about that? His ability when he's torturing someone. I mean, that's wild.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was just like a twisted evil spin. I don't know how you make somebody more evil. Before, I don't want to get too much into spoilers before I keep going, but my first favorite character, it's tough. Like these are like very small margins between every one of these characters.
I know. I agree.
I think Jax edges out Tinstra just by a smidge for me, just because there's a particular everything that kind of goes on with Jax. It was that there were some emotional notes that he had later in the book that were, I was like, damn. Just like poor son of a, like.
Oh, yep. So this is who I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Jax, I think Jax hit me a little harder in those notes. I think Tinstra, like you were mentioning, like the coward and like that whole theme with her, hit me on those notes. Darius is obviously just like this absolutely fascinating evil character that I don't empathize with at all.
Right.
And Dren is just this like moronic kid who's just like ready to get after it, So, and then Yas, of course, who's like, actually we really haven't mentioned much about, but I see the other character you're talking about, Jake.
I think he's talking about Tinstra, not Tinstra and Dren, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you were talking about Dren? Okay.
She has some similar things too, right?
Yeah.
Where she's,
I thought so.
very begrudging, right?
Right.
But then by the end is just like, all right, what the heck? Like, I'll do it,
Yeah.
So everything is for her family, and it's that's pretty that in that sense it's pretty flat. But I think her acceptance after she, now I'm realizing just how like maybe they were a little bit more gray than I thought.
Yeah.
Like, and thinking about her character, I'm just like, oh.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking
actually,
of. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say with the that kind of we've kind of hit on multiple people and like their motivations. I think were all pretty well fleshed out.
Oh yeah.
Like Yas with the family, Dren with the just like I'm tired of being kicked around and I want to revolt.
Mm-hmm.
Jax with the wanting to do the right thing and protect the people and all that kind of stuff. Tinstra was kind of just pushed along for most of it, right? But then she found her motivation towards the end with taking care of the kid.
Yep.
And I just thought that those were they were very well developed motivations. I felt it was cool.
Yeah,
I agree.
I also want to say before we move to spoilers, it's very unusual that I have in a book like this that there's like a bunch of non-POV characters who I just like absolutely love. In this book, there's three that I can really point out. We have the woman, I actually don't know her name, the woman that was Yas worked for, who I really enjoyed when she was on the page.
Yeah.
They start with an M, which is like very rare for me to even remember a letter of that person's name like that. You know what I mean? Which could be totally wrong and I'm lying. But and then Asgod, obviously, that dude was so
awesome.
sick.
Yeah.
And then is so sick. And then Greener, Asgod, and then the woman at the truck. Yeah, they were so cool to me.
He did do supporting characters very well. I agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sweet.
All right, we're going in spoilers.
I mean, I think we already gave sort of this, I thought we were already in spoilers because
I thought we were too.
I've been lightly.
Now we're going all in.
Okay, so that was, I guess.
So if anybody doesn't want to know spoilers and is watching, now's the time to mute. You don't need to stop watching.
Just stare.
All right.
Get that full view in.
Hey, the Red Company also needs a very cool animated intro, by the way.
Yes.
We need to figure that out, like Critical Role or something.
Yes.
That's
a whole other can of worms, man. And figuring out how to put that into StreamYard. I don't know how to do that.
Hey, it's a good point. I can't even start a stream.
Rockio. You have him on. You have him on guy, right?
I don't think he knows either, dude. Have you seen his YouTube channel?
Oh yeah.
Well, I think he does it, doesn't he? When he has a live stream.
He does intros.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
All right, spoilers. Full spoilers.
All right, what was your favorite scene, people?
Asgod and Darius. That was probably
pretty sweet.
One of my favorite scenes.
You're gonna have to elaborate. I can't remember.
Darius and Asgod. So Asgod had just he had gotten Tinstra and Zorik out of not Kyasin, but Aria, whatever. And they were on the wagon. Asgod was all messed up from like saving them in the tunnel where they were with the Shulka. And then they get to this little town, or they get to the cottage.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason I know it's pronounced that way is because I did both, like I read and listened to the audiobook. And by the way, the audiobook narrator was so good. I don't know her name, but she was so good. But they were at the cottage, and then Darius shows up with a bunch of Shulka. Asgod rips some steroids because he's like dead, and then Tinstra just dumps some steroids in his mouth, and then he lights up on fire and destroys everybody. That was cool. That was sick.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah, that was such a good scene. I'd completely forgot. The thing is, I forgot who Asgod is. And also, in my head, I call him Asgod.
Asgod. Yeah.
Okay, Vera. Welcome to the stream.
Okay. In my defense, I just do the H. I cut one A out.
That.
It's two A's.
That's I'm trying to think of surprise visit.
I'm trying to think of my favorite scene. The Jax torture scene was pretty great. I just love the really dark stuff. I don't know. Mm-hmm. It's always just really interesting.
Since we're talking about Jax, my favorite scene was Jax and his son.
Yeah,
that was very good. Also,
that was really good.
It was horrible, but it was
so well done. Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as Darius came in, I was like, shit.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
I know. Like, no.
Damn it, dude. I just wanted them to get what they wanted.
I know.
Yeah, that's the note that hit me. That's the scene I think that really made me that tipped Jax over the edge for Tinstra for me. Really.
Fair. Definitely
fair. And also the last scene in the book where he cuts off Darius's head,
That was one of my favorite parts too.
Yeah.
That part was
also,
so
we should give Darius his flowers, stabbing his sister in the head with a knife after she just like dodged 50 people's strikes. Just like,
that was pretty.
His flowers.
Yeah, that was pretty epic when like all this stuff happens and then Tinstra picks up the axe. And I was like, let's go. That was awesome.
Yeah.
That was sweet.
Mm-hmm. Oh, what did you guys think of that scene where Tinstra gets her face destroyed by an axe and lives?
Yeah, I didn't fully understand how she.
Me either.
It must have just grazed her or something.
So my interpretation was that the magical sword that Asgard gave her was actually magical, even though like the magic was in you the whole time. It's like but also you got stabbed in the face with an axe and you lived.
Right.
Yeah. Like so maybe
it's an interesting take.
I thought that it was just magic, period. I thought he said, "Oh yeah, here's this magic sword. You can have it. Take it. Live. Protect the freaking princess.
Really?
Get out of here."
I immediately was like, "There's no way this is magical. It's gonna be she thought it was magic, so she was brave, but she was actually, Immediately, I was like, "No way is it actually."
Yeah,
magical.
exactly.
Because didn't he say heal any wound or whatever?
Yes, exactly.
When he gave it
So
it's magical.
Yeah. That's what I thought.
Assumed, I guess, but I guess it doesn't really spell it out.
But then it shatters, and then you're like, "Oh shit!" But it shatters as she's getting cut in the face.
Yeah.
So like she puts it up, gets cut in the face, but she's still holding it. So in my head, I was like, "Okay, she heals the way Darius heals,
right?
But just much slower." Because I mean, they show up and Darius is like, "That's the dead girl." Like he talks about the dead girl on the ground with the axe cut in her face,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I think in my eyes that was the interpretation I had. Even though after that, I think it was a Greener or I forgot who said it. They were like, "Yeah, there was no magic. It was in you the whole time." Like Disney, which I think was. Yeah, which was I think Shackle's way of just like making fun of that trope,
Yeah. Man, I hope that's what I'm gonna roll with that. I hope that's what it is because I came out of the book being like, okay, there's like 3 things with Tinstra that just really bothered me. It was like the sword that was just obviously not actually magical, and like we're doing this thing. It was every other paragraph. I'm a coward though. Oh, they don't know I'm a coward. I can't do this. I'm a coward. Just, all that was kind of, I don't know. Weird. Now I'm blanking on the third one, but I remember there being something.
The cow. How many times she said she's a coward? Oh wait, no, that was what you
said. Whenever something repeats itself, I go, okay, all right, next paragraph.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Oh, the third one was she gets cut in the face and somehow it's just fine. I was just like, what? That doesn't make sense. Wait, so I'm gonna make that my headcanon.
Yeah, that theory eliminates 2 of those 3 issues.
There you go.
Exactly. It does indeed.
So now you love the book more now.
Oh yeah, that makes it better. That definitely makes it better.
To me, it wasn't even a theory. It was just it was just a fact. It's like, he said it's a magic sword, so it's a magic sword. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, I think he keeps us on our toes. Yeah, I think he keeps us on our toes intentionally. I think he wants us to think. Because I did think the same thing you did, Jake. Where I was like, "Oh, I mean, the sword's obviously not magical." Yeah. And then that happened, and I was like, "Oh, I think it's magical."
Right?
Yeah.
I like it.
I'm just the type of guy who there's this absurd, crazy theory that I feel like I've been told, and then I think it's a fact, and then when it's supposed to be some big reveal, I go, what? That was supposed to be a reveal? I've done that multiple times. It's weird.
Mm-hmm. Did you guys give your favorite scenes?
And thinking about my favorite scenes, I think maybe Jax is probably one of him and Dren maybe are my favorite because that part at the end where he cuts Darius' head off, that part was sweet. And then the part where he first kind of is interrogating Dren, and then Dren's like, I'm not gonna stop, so either throw me in the harbor or let me go or whatever. And he's like, All right, you heard him throwing in the water.
Go in.
And then that part where they fight when Dren's coming after him to take him out after that, and he like is trying to be all sneaky, and then he turns around to leave, and he's just sitting there staring at him.
Yeah.
And then they fight. That part was pretty sweet too. So
Yeah.
many
I guess
Dren
maybe
scenes.
Jax is my top because
their dynamic was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was cackling when he was thrown into the water.
Oh, yeah.
Just sitting there going,
Yeah.
"You idiot! Why'd you test him?"
Yeah. Well, that's what he does, though. He pushes buttons, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
like
man.
his prerogative.
Yeah,
There's
right.
a red button that says "Don't
I mean,
press."
Right. He's gonna put. That's like literally the opening of the book, because he's trying to like draw something on the wall, right? And like that's just he's a troublemaker, you know.
Yeah.
So,
I think what about your favorite scene, Jake? Did you give it?
I think it's probably the torture scene.
Oh yeah.
Oh right. Okay. Yeah.
I think that's probably one. Honestly, I also, now that you brought it up, I also really like the interrogation thing with Dren and Jax.
Yeah.
Because I think that's where it kind of clicked into place for me that like Dren really thinks that he's a hero.
Yeah.
But he is just a little kid and he's terrified.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of so much of his arc I thought was great. Yeah, the more we talk about this, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, yeah, he was my favorite character for sure.
Yeah. He just had that, and then blowing people up with just relentless no avail.
Or like taking having that one girl.
Oh
yeah, like suicide bomb the.
Oh
yeah!
Right?
Oh my gosh! Yeah, that was
Crazy.
That threw me off. I was like, oh, maybe she's. And then they mentioned the cut on her hand, and then it only clicked together later how the bombs work, like how you need blood or whatever. And I was like, oh, which made that payoff so much cooler.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Why don't we talk about the magic for a second? Because I thought the magic was. I liked how it wasn't like the biggest part of the story.
Right.
It was just like it wasn't the focus at all. It was there and it mattered, but it wasn't the focus by any means. And there's actually a lot. The more Asgard stuff and everything he's doing. You got the Chosen and like their special powers and do I have that right? There's the Chosen, right?
Yeah.
And they each have their own little unique power, which is really interesting and cool. And then you have like the Daijuku that are super cool and scary and horrifying.
Yeah.
I can't even remember what the dogs were called.
Is it the dogs or is it the Daijuku that are just kids that have been turned into monsters?
I think that's what it is. It's like all the demons, including the dogs, were all turned. They were all people who were sacrificed to become these demons. Which was.
I remember one of the guys was like, "Oh yeah, these are my kids. I turned them into these wolves or whatever."
Yeah. I feel like that might have been more of a way of speaking because he treated them that way. But you might be right. I have to see. I forgot what the name of the dogs were, but demon dogs,
Yeah, the demon dogs.
Like
it was some other kind of Japanese thing.
Nazi zombies,
Right. But yeah, I just thought that was cool that we have these basically like magical creatures, right? And then there's some just like quote unquote classical magic fighting, whatever, but then just these bombs that was just such a cool, unique, different. That also, again, since you brought it up, it reminds me of like war occupation stuff.
Yeah.
And all the terrorism and like stuff like that's happening, and kind of brings in some of those real world aspects into the story, right? I thought that was
the guerrilla warfare.
Yeah, exactly. Very cool. Very cool.
I wonder how much research he did into, or just how much background knowledge he had in World War II and the occupations from there.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard him speak, but I don't. I feel like he mentioned World War II, and I don't know. I'd have to go back. It was like well before I picked up the series. I think it was like when I was buying the trilogy. I was like, oh, I got to know something about this guy,
Sure. Yeah, that's so. How did
spend 100 pounds on it?
Yeah, right. Is that how you found the series then? Because I know for me, I just remember hearing Mike from Mike's Book Reviews talk about it.
That's what it was. Yeah,
Yep.
for me. Yeah. Yep. And then John obviously mentioned it and read through, and I think those were the first two for me.
That's right.
Yeah. Or maybe Mike. It was like maybe Matt, Mike, and Mike's fantasy book reviews, and then John.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, in some order, it just got so much praise, and I get it. Like just after reading the first book, I mean, I get it. This is just like Asgard to me he's like the antithesis of Baez, just like wanted the good thing to happen and did everything to get it, and he's just like this ultimate badass.
Yeah.
He's just a sacrificial Gandalf.
Yeah. Well, then he gives a sword. Then he gives a magical sword that gives Tinstra these abilities. If you think not to spoil anything in First Law, but if you think of one particular character in that series,
that's it's a good parallel. Yeah.
Man, really that was a much better book than I was. I didn't know. I didn't really have I mean, I expected to enjoy it. I just didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I did.
Right.
So
agreed.
I didn't really go in with any expectations, but I thought when I first heard about it, like, it's probably not for me. I don't care about it, period. And so when we were like, oh yeah, let's go, let's read this. I'm like, I don't know. And then I read it and I go, shit, that's good.
That's right.
So good.
You gotta trust this, man.
What did you guys? What was the saddest death for you guys?
Ooh, dang.
Oh, the kid, Jax's kid for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
I didn't think his death didn't impact me. It was the fact that Jax had to come back after his kid was dead.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. That's, I guess to me, it's like the he sacrificed himself to do the right thing, and it ended up not working.
Right.
And just like that.
Yeah.
That waste, like that. That's like a deep fear of mine, right? Is that like having something like that happen where I really put my money where my mouth is, and everything falls apart anyway, and I'm just screwed. Like, so to see that there, I was just like, oh, that's horrible.
Yeah. Well, I think after he's getting interrogated, right when he's about to get interrogated, he's brought back. He's like, God, I hope Kane's dead. Like he has to hope that his son is dead.
Yeah.
But he's like, at that point, he wishes he was dead, but he's more caring about his son being dead. For me, that scene was that was like one of the more sad scenes for me. But Greener's death, where he just like sends it, and what's her name? Skara. I think Darius' sister. She takes out Greener and like all of them, and I was like, that one hit me.
Yeah.
Remind me to read the book closer to our meeting next time. Darius again.
Oh yeah.
Darius is the chosen who heals.
Oh he's the guy who heals. Never mind.
Skara is his sister who like teleports.
Yeah,
like becomes mist and can like
Yeah, just
crazy.
Miss. What is it? Crazy. What's that D&D spell? Miss something.
I don't remember.
I don't know. I can't remember it. But yeah, she's got that. She's got a bunch of Dungeons and Dragons spells, and I think the cutting off limbs and then growing back like Deadpool, but like at an accelerated rate. That was twisted.
That was.
Him looking over at the pile of arms. Wild.
Yeah. That was.
He hates his own ability too, doesn't he? Because I remember him saying, "I want to feel pain, or I want to be able to die in honor, or something like that."
Darius, most of his self-talk was about how much he hated his sister. Also,
that's true.
The whole book, he knew he was going to take his chance when he got it.
Yeah, for sure.
And then she was all like, "What are you like? Oh, I'm sorry." Like, just like so nice.
I know.
Just like cared about him.
Just pissed him off.
You nice person. You disgust me.
Yeah, it's just that was such a funny dynamic to me.
Was.
Just getting his perspective of it, and just I don't know.
I was trying so hard to understand why he hated hers. It's like I'm thinking, why are you trying to kill her? What's she doing? And then he kills her. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. That to me was equivalent to Tinstra's constantly talking about being
Oh,
a coward. Like towards the end, I was like, it became satire with him. I was like, oh, like in the beginning, I was like, oh, I guess we hate his sister because he hates her, you know. And then I guess we have to remember we're in the head of somebody who's evil, and therefore maybe somebody he hates isn't somebody we should necessarily hate,
right?
You know. Even though she was obviously evil, but I don't know, just bizarre.
It was bizarre. What do you guys? This might be a reasonable place to kind of wrap it up. Would be, what are you looking forward to in book 2? Like, what kind of stuff? Obviously, none of us have read book 2. We don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
but I think, unless someone's worked ahead.
No.
But
no.
looking forward, like, what do you hope for? What are you excited about? What do we think?
A fool's hope.
Yes.
Someone take it.
I guess I'm just excited to see the continued progression of these character arcs, you know, to see where he goes next, because some of them went through a pretty big arc, a pretty big swing, and you wonder, okay, there's 2 more books. Like, are some of them going to swing back the other way? Are they going to keep getting, you know, I don't imagine they're just going to keep moving in a positive direction. There's got to be some angst in there, you know. So I just wonder who's going to go to the dark side. You know, there's got to be some crazy stuff coming, you know, because I mean, book 2 is a lot bigger than book 1, right?
Oh yeah, and then book 3 is even bigger than book 2.
3 is a beast. I mean,
yeah.
You
those are so nice.
Bearded book beast.
I know. Look at those pretty sprayed edges.
And the question is Daenerys' head being cut off? Does it grow back? You know,
right?
Is his heart the source of the, or what is the source of his magic? You know, like he could totally be alive, and if he's not alive, who is the evil that we're seeing through? You know?
Yeah, are we going to get an evil POV?
Yeah. That's a big one for me. Is I want to see more of the Chosen. I want to see more of the special powers. It's what I'm kind of hoping for is that we get like light Wheel of Time vibes, where we kept getting introduced to a new Forsaken and seeing what they can do and all that kind of stuff. That I would love to see more of them, see what's going on. And obviously, you know, the character arcs, you said that very well. Like, there were 2 more books, like, you know, like where are we going from here?
Right.
Do we still think we're a coward after all this? You know?
Yeah, exactly. Can we be done with that?
Yeah.
It's like Jax is like Palpatine now, you know, after the Force lightning with Mace Windu.
Like, right. Yeah. Speaking of that, I think there's a little bit of Star Wars influence too. Like the Chosen kind of remind me of the Sith a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, I could see that. Just bit. Like the pure, like the
evil empire and these,
Yeah, that's interesting. There's 2 of them.
Not a lot. Just
there is 2 of them.
Yeah. That's speaking of that too. I would love to get more of like, why are they like that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's something I thought. I was like, man, of like a prequel, like you said, a prequel, like knowing like how the Eagle have been being, like what have the Shulka and that empire been doing? To make the Eagle need to, you know, sacrifice people to summon demons, you know, is it all for what's it, Cage? Cage is the god, the demon god, right? And then who is Cage's child? The was it Raku?
Yeah, the Emperor,
Emperor Raku. I think there you go. I'm thinking we get some Emperor Raku stuff.
I would love some of that, because I really don't want them to just be evil because they're evil, right?
Yeah, no, I don't think they're
right.
Yeah,
I would be surprised.
It's probably I think we got a hint of that, right? And like in that, maybe I'm confusing. Well, you guys are gonna laugh. I might be confusing this with another book, where like there were the gods that were born, and then the one was kicked to the side. No, I don't know, but yeah, I think it might be a situation where it's like, you know, the mad young brother. Like twisted, like evil because they were looked down upon. Right. You know.
Yeah. Unless you're gaslighting me, Chance. That'd be.
No, I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? I might be. Maybe
gaslighting is not even a word. What are you talking about?
Shit.
Oh, well played.
Yeah,
Alex, what about you? What are you looking forward to?
I really want to see more of Tinstro and favorite authors are.
Whoa, look at this.
Yeah, I want to say that's why I
My
stopped.
first-
I'm like,
First ever.
Your first one.
First ever super
Really?
thing. Thank you, Safina. I appreciate you. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Round of applause.
Okay,
Come on.
we will interrupt the We Are the Dead discussion. We're kind of wrapping up anyway. Who are all of our favorite authors? If it's hard to give one, maybe you can give try to keep it to 2 or 3 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But should we go around the horn?
Go around the horn.
All right. Who's gonna start? Alex,
Fine,
you start,
I'll go.
bro.
Okay, so I'd say, and I want to say Hob, but Realm of the Elderlings is pretty much the only thing I've read from her, and besides that, I haven't read anything else, and so I kind of don't want to say anything else because it's all pretty much one thing. So I would say Hob, but I'm gonna have to say Sanderson because he's had the most consistently things I love, like Stormlight, Warbreaker, Tress, Yumi, Emperor's Soul. I love a ton of stuff that the guy's made.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's a good one.
Yeah,
Chris, how about you?
All right, I would say for sure I got a 1A, 1B. So Abercrombie, love First Law, and then Pierce Brown, Red Rising.
Another good choice.
But there's so many good ones. I mean, Rockio,
so many good
Sanderson.
It's
all
impossible to choose too.
Yeah. Mine are. I'm going to give a Mount Rushmore because mine I think are pretty cliche. I'm going to go with Steven Erikson. I love his style of writing. I love his ability to evoke emotion. Christopher Rockio. Hadrian Marlowe, purely.
Yep.
I mean, that is just and the ability to weave a story and narrative together from the future. I just love that. Then we have Abercrombie, of course, on that list. And then Tad Williams is my number 4. This is where it gets tricky because we have Hob, who I've only read a couple books of, and then I have Tad Williams, who I've read an insane amount of words of, only reading 3 books. And Tad Williams, Memory Star on Thorn quickly became one of my favorites. So I think I would put it's between Tad Williams and Hob right now for me, and that would be my Mount Rushmore plus the growing head out of the side of the shoulder.
Yeah.
Good one. Add another one in there.
Yeah.
It's like the you haven't seen Naruto, have you? At the Hokage heads, they always just add another head when they have a new Hokage.
Like that.
Yeah, for me, I guess if I can only pick one, I'll probably pick Sanderson just because of the sheer volume. But I'll do a top 3 of I'll add in Christopher Rockio in there and Steven Erikson as well for similar reasons to what you guys described. I'm going to be honest. I think Janie Wirtz is knocking on the door. She's probably going to be there by the time we get deep into Wars of Light and Shadow. Yeah,
that's exciting.
I should finish To Ride Hell's Chasm tomorrow, and dude, it's been so incredible.
It's so good. And Wars of Light and Shadow, if you ask me, is even better.
I'm sure hoping so.
All right, I'm excited. I need to burn through Erickson's stuff so I can get there.
Don't burn through Erickson's stuff.
Don't burn through.
It's so difficult to do that. I can't either. That's the thing. I want to. I really badly want to, but yeah.
You know what's funny is that you can read those much faster than Janie Wirtz in my experience.
So. Well, that's I'm estimating. That's why I'm like, all right, I feel like maybe I should just hold off.
Janie Wirtz will take a long time. It took me, I want to say 16 days to finish Ships of Merior and Warhost of Vastmark.
I feel like that's not that long for 2.
Those are beasts.
But they were the only things I were reading. I wasn't reading anything else.
We're going to see how it goes, man.
He's so humble. He's like, yeah, it took me forever to read the entire Wars of Light and Shadow. It took me a month and a half. Such a drag.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been a blast, as always, to talk to you guys. I think the overwhelming consensus here, We Are the Dead, was fantastic. We're all really looking forward to book 2. Yeah. And, man, thank you to everybody who hung out on the stream with us. Thank you to everybody watching the replay. Talk to us in the comments. Make sure you follow everybody here. Subscribe to their channels. They're all fantastic channels. And I think the plan is to maybe hit up Aleuthian next.
Yeah.
Nice.
Take a quick little departure from Grimdark. And because Aleuthian has been that's a long overdue one that we've been all kind of talking about. So maybe we read that one January-ish. Maybe have a discussion late January, early February, something like that.
Sounds good. Great idea. Yeah.
We'll kind of kick it around. Somebody else will host that one probably, and we'll have a great time.
Somebody who can host. Somebody who has the ability.
We got to get you.
We got to get you to
it out, man.
Someone who has the mental ability.
You sure you can't do it?
You guys are all Asgod to me because you can host a StreamYard stream. You know, this is like you guys are all the high mages of the Red Company.
We'll give you the sword.
Grunt.
Yeah. You get the sword.
We'll give you a nice magic lesson.
I need
We'll send you to Hogwarts. There we go.
There you go. Yeah. Well, thanks, Jake, for hosting. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, dude.
Of course. My pleasure. Thanks again, everybody watching. We will see you very soon.
Yep.